Hi everybody, it's Mr. Gray here. Thank you again for another really great week of school. We're getting down to the end here and things are moving really fast, but of course we're having a lot of fun. Congratulations to the students who tried out for the talent show. I think that's going to be a really fun event, and I know a lot of work and nervousness goes into that, so congratulations to those students for trying out. I should be very proud of yourselves for even getting up there to try out. Okay, let's get right into it. I have a few announcements. The first one is next week, April 28th on Friday, is our Santiago Hills cultural event called AWISH. Around the world in Santiago Hills. And so if you haven't been a part of it before, it's a really fantastic event. It's really a time to celebrate all the different cultures, nations, differences that people have about them, where they come from, and people get to share that. And it's a really fun event. So it'll be next Friday, April 28th from 5 to 8 p.m. on the blacktop at Santiago Hills. You're very much encouraged to kind of come and share your culture, whether it's the way you are dressed or interesting things that you bring with you. And it's a really, really incredible event. We're lucky to have a huge amount of diversity at school and get to see different perspectives and different life experiences that people have. So if you're able to come to that event, please do. You can come anytime between there. There's not really a start and end time. You can just come drop in for a little bit. I'll definitely be there for a little bit. So it's really, really fun. And I highly encourage you to come if you can, next Friday, April 28th from 5 to 8. The next thing, the next big announcement I want to tell you about is state testing is coming up. Not next week, but we're going to start the week after. So the first week of May 1st through 5th, we're going to do some of the tests that week and then some of the tests the week after. So I don't have a lot to say about it. It's going to be something that we're going to be very well suited for. The kids have been practicing a lot of reading, writing, and math throughout the year. So it's nothing to prepare extra for or really give any extra attention to. I just want to bring it up because it can be quite draining that week. The kids are taking the test on the computer for a good amount of time for many days that week, 3 or 4 days for the first week, and then maybe 1 or 2 days the second week. And so it's something to think about, maybe a little extra snack at recess, making sure the kids get good nights of sleep and are able to get like good food. We will definitely go outside a little bit extra and play a little bit extra that week, but it just can be kind of a little bit of a draining week just because they're kind of stuck sitting, and then while other kids are taking the test, there's not a lot else they can do. I'll have a couple of things for them to do, but if you want to send like coloring pages or things that are relaxing or quiet, of course they can bring books in. I think that would be a really nice thing for them to do during that time, but I just wanted to give you a heads up that state testing is coming, and it is just one of those weeks, one of those things we have to deal with, but it's going to be May 1st through 5th, and then also the second week. The only big change is that in 5th grade and 8th grade and 11th grade, the kids take an additional state test, which is science. So they will take 2 English language arts reading and writing tests, 2 math tests, and 1 science test. So we're going to go over that next week and do a little bit of practice so the kids know what to expect. But it doesn't look dramatically different from any of the years before. The last big announcement is just a reminder that the kids are working on their All Apis project. We're going to have kind of a convention that will officially invite you to in the coming weeks, but that last convention where parents are invited to check out the students' projects is Tuesday, May 23rd. And it'll be right at the end of the day from like 2 to 2:45 p.m. In the MPR. So you get to come, check out all the projects, possibly vote for some awards, and that'll be really fun. And then the very last announcement is the kids' final chit chat. The final speech of the year. They give 4 speeches throughout the year, and we're on the 4th one. In this last one, it's much more open-ended. The kids have worked really hard. This time, they get a chance to just use the 3 minutes for basically whatever they want. They can inform us, entertain us, persuade us, just convince us of something. So it's up to them. They are thinking of some ideas. It might be worth to check in with them next week when we meet for the chit chat. They have to get their topic approved by me. So you might have some guidance for them in what they might be interested in doing. And I'll have some guidance for them, but it should be really fun to that last chit chat. And they will actually give their speeches the week of May 15th. In Reader's Workshop, we're continuing learning about fantasy books, and so we'll talk about a couple of things next week. The first is going to be thinking metaphorically. And then the second is going to be that characters and places are not always what they seem. And those go together a little bit, but we're just kind of learning about the different aspects of fantasy that helps with reading and also writing. The students will do some kind of little reflection piece on Thursday. I'm still trying to decide what that's going to look like, but they're going to turn that in for a grade on Thursday. And then to help us with our fantasy reading and kind of understand how fantasy books go, I'm reading out loud The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which is a really wonderful book because it has all the elements of fantasy that kind of tie in together like really clearly. And so it's a really great book. I'm reading out loud. The kids are really enjoying it, but that's what's happening in reading next week. In Writers Workshop, the students are working on their fantasy stories. We're doing a very structured fantasy story where I kind of lay out all the different sections that tend to happen in fantasy stories, and the kids are following that along in their own story with their own person that kind of is a little bit like them. The protagonist is kind of like them, but doesn't have to be like them. So we're adding 2 sections next week. The first one is going to be where the character enters or encounters the actual new world. And we're going to learn about the new world. We're going to learn about the character's role in the new world. We're going to learn about the villain and the problems that the villain portrays. And then the second section is going to be a time where the character actually reluctantly accepts their calling. So typically this character has some kind of flaw and they're kind of overcoming that in a way or trying to overcome it, and they don't feel ready that they can take on and solve the problems of this whole new world, but they're really called to do it in some way, and so they're going to end up at this point reluctantly accepting that call. They also are having, the kids in this case, are having to work with a partner, and the partner is there for support. So they're not writing with the partner, but they're able to check in with the partner as we go. And they're each serving as a writing partner, and it's a chance to really support someone else's writing. It's probably the last time we're going to get to do that this year. So it's a really great opportunity for the kids to really practice being a great support system, really caring about someone else's writing as much as their own. And so we're working on all those things at the same time, but you can definitely check in with your kids about their fantasy writing, what they're thinking, kind of what their vision is of their fantasy story, because they're turning out to be pretty exciting so far. In math, we're going to take some time. We already talked about adding, subtracting, and multiplying decimals, dividing decimals, or doing division with decimals somewhere in the mix does have a little bit of confusing wrinkles. And so we're reviewing that and also kind of looking at it a little more carefully to figure out how to do it efficiently and carefully and not make mistakes, and also really have a good understanding of what to do. So we're going to look at division with decimals in the context of area and volume next week. And then we're also going to take a short decimals, a division with decimals quiz on Thursday. In social studies, we're continuing our look at the Revolutionary War, and particularly the important battles of the Revolutionary War. The students are keeping track of the information in their own maps. They're making a digital map, and each location of the battle is marked, as well as some important information about that battle, and that's how they're keeping track of all that information. We're also studying state capitals. That's coming up in a few weeks. It's still a ways out, but when we have extra time, the kids are studying their capitals. I'll give them a big heads up before that test is coming. And then I'm also continuing to read aloud the Young Readers edition of The First Conspiracy, The Secret Plot to Kill George Washington. That is corresponding nicely or overlapping right now with some of those important battles. The battles are quickly going to move past where we are in this book. This book kind of stays in 1776, but in this book right now, what I'm reading aloud, they're getting ready. They're preparing for battle in New York. The British warships are in the harbor. And in our Revolutionary War, we just kind of went through the Battle of New York with what happens. So these are overlapping quite nicely at the moment, but we'll continue reading that book, and we'll continue looking at the important battles of the Revolutionary War. In science, the students are going to read an informational text that really gets at the heart of the vast distances of space, particularly between Earth and stars, and also stars and other stars. And of course, they'll see Mr. Marco for Science Lab. That's all we have going. Just all of those things are what's happening next week. Like I said, things are going to move really fast when we get into May, but please join us for AWISH on April 28th. The talent show is coming up on May 18th. And the All Apis Project Convention is going to be May 23rd, and that's going to get us pretty close to the end of the year. And we have some special 5th grade stuff for the end of the year, which I'll tell you about later. So have a wonderful weekend. Thank you again. Bye-bye.